I'm a new TrainerRoad user, fairly new cyclist, and brand new to structured workouts. I've typically just ridden when and he says in quotes, feel good. I picked a low volume plan for general build, and I'm finding that the efforts are a bit too much and seem too frequent. So my questions: 1, how can you know if you can push through the pain so I can get benefits from the training adaptation? I don't mean real pain, just muscle soreness that typically subsides after some easy riding. And number 2, is there a reason or any reason I couldn't just move the planned workouts to another day or so when I'm ready? Or will I be losing in the long run because I'm not pushing myself? Nate and I are in the middle of the base phase, so the build phase. So this resonates very. This is strong right now. He says, I know both of these are subjective in some way because you don't know me or know what I've been doing. So don't expect any specific directions, just maybe some guidelines to think about as I begin my training. That's exactly what we're about, Trey. Guidelines. First things first, probably talking about pushing through the pain, that sort of thing. Nate, you mentioned that you had hard workouts a couple weeks ago. And how did you manage that? How did you decide too much was too much, or how did you adjust?
So when I failed, I was like, literally my arms and legs were shaking in a workout in the middle of sweet spot, like 5 minutes into it. That told me after the warm up, it was bad. And then I think we're maybe 10 minutes into a 30-minute segment, and that maybe this was too much for today. So I stopped. And normally that wouldn't be a big deal for me. But I think, Trey, the first thing is, bro, like, don't jump into build. Hi, Amaret. Stay in like sweet spot. Go to sweet spot first, and then do this, because this is the progression.
That's for those that are listening to the podcast. By the way, Chad's fiance was in the background, so Nate was waving hi. So
it's a progression. It builds on itself. So going right into build, especially then if you've never done this before, that is going to be extremely hard. You're not going to be used to the pain. Don't do that. And secondly, like, I don't think I ever come into a workout totally fresh, like, not sore, just raring to go. That only happens like before A races for me, when I have a complete taper.
Right. There's so many things, like, it's so rare that anybody even starts a race at 100%, because there's just a lot of things that can go wrong. I mean, you hope for it, you try for it, you do everything you can to make sure that you're starting at 100%, but it's pretty rare. And then it's even more rare in training.
This is like, I think people, when they start weight training, they're like, I can't work out again because I'm sore. And the soreness lasts 4 or 5 days. And then it just happens where they get like 1 or 2 workouts a week because they're always a little bit sore. But you should just expect it. And it doesn't mean that your performance is going to drop off a ton just because you're sore.
Yeah.
Chad, is that right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You're never going to, I mean, occasionally you should have that very fresh day where you're like, man, I feel like I'm ready to get after it today. But those days are infrequent, to say the least. You're always going to carry some minor issue into it. I do stand by my recommendation that during a loading week, it really shouldn't take you more than 48 hours. So you do a workout at 6 a.m., then 6 a.m. the next day, you're still pretty cooked. But by 6 a.m. that following day, 48 hours later, you're probably about ready to hit it again. This changes a bit for older athletes, masters athletes. Then it might shift more towards 72 hours. And it's not a hard 48 or 72, but the point is it grows. You need a little more time before you're ready to bounce back and do it again. But you should feel reasonably ready. And to Nate's point, we've talked about this, that give yourself a little while into the workout. Try to not decide at the outset that this is going to be a tough day. I don't think I've got this, and shut it down before you've even warmed up. Get through the warm up, maybe get partway into the first interval or all the way through a short interval, and then say, no, it turns out I can actually do this. I think you'll get to a point, most riders will get to a point where they recognize where that cutoff is, where and they just described it. This is not going to be a productive day. I need to shut it down. I stand to lose more than I stand to gain by pushing through this workout.
It's also worth saying probably that it is striking a balance though, right? Because training should be hard, and especially when we're talking about the build phase, it shouldn't be something that you feel like you can just stroll through. It's funny, Pete and I were just talking about this because Pete, of course, is just matching Nate's training plan and just doing Nate's plan +1, whatever that is, right?
Literally 1 extra watt in intervals.
That's amazing. Way to go, Pete. So that's a good psychological tactic right there. But with that, we were talking about this, and we were talking about how hard our training has been, but at the same time, how we don't regret it and how we don't lament that. It's doing its job. And yeah, it makes us sore. And yeah, it's hard. But you find your way to get through it. During those 3 12-minute intervals that I had to do the other day that were just the threshold ones after those super hard surges, I remember being halfway into the second one and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard, so uncomfortable. But I stopped myself from saying, I can't do this. And I just kept going. And it was within a few more minutes, I realized, hey, I just made it a few more minutes. It doesn't feel any different. Like it still sucks, but it doesn't feel any more sucky. So if it's the same, I bet I can keep going through. So there is a balance to be struck. It's when you find it's unproductive, I at least personally find it's pretty red. It's very clear. And it comes usually with my inability to complete the workout at all. So and then definitely it's.
I saw that coming.
I was trying so hard not to do that.
It was building up.
I thought I had it under control.
You look like you were like maybe gonna cry. Like
yes, yeah. Amber was
But
thinking
no.
of really
Beautiful
hard
monologue,
workouts.
dude.
But you can. Finding that balance takes time, but it's absolutely something that is crucial, especially when you get into the build phase.
Yeah, I'll
Also-
say. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
With some like the shorter like VO2 efforts, for example, I usually find that the first 2, no matter what, like even whether I'm fresh or not, it just feels like there is no way I'm getting through this workout. And then by the 3rd effort, it's like, oh yeah, I totally got this. And Chad often in the workout text reminds you to take it one interval at a time. And oftentimes it's usually for me, the 2nd or the 3rd effort, even with some of the threshold efforts, like the 10 and 12 minute long efforts, the first one is usually like, there is no way I'm going to do more than one of these today. And then I get through the first one. I'm like, okay, well, I did that one. Let's give the second one a shot. And then you start the second one and it's like, oh, it's a totally different world from how the first one felt. So yeah, Chad.
I can't tell you how many times I've coaxed myself through a workout by promising that I'm only going to do this first interval because I can't possibly do another 12-minute interval.
Yeah.
And then I get through the recovery valley after that first 12-minute interval. And I think, well, I'll just start this one, pull the plug halfway through. But then you're halfway through, you're like, I can finish this one. Before you know it, you've worked yourself through a 4x12 workout when you would have bailed prior to that first 12-minute interval if you hadn't just made yourself kind of do it. With that said, I'd like people to be encouraged by recognizing where they are in the loading cycle. If we have a 3-week loading cycle or in Sweet Spot Base, a 5-week loading cycle, do know that you're going to have to ask a little more of yourself in terms of motivation and psychological support as you get deeper and deeper into that plan. So each workout or each week of workouts might be a little taller order because you are carrying a little more fatigue, but that is part of the process. So don't use that fatigue as an excuse to bail out on week 5 of Sweet Spot Base. Recognize instead, I'm supposed to feel really tired right now. I'm just about to my recovery week. I'm going to make myself get through these last couple of workouts. I'm almost there.
Yeah.
Right. And I just want to go
Amber,
back real quick to what Nate said. If you've done base phase before you get to build phase, base phase is designed to put you in a position to tackle build. So when you do this progressively and you follow the plan, just know that even if it is challenging, you've done the work that's going to prepare you to be able to get through this successfully.
Yep. Once again, don't skip base training. We've been saying it nonstop, but Plan Builder will take care of that for you, which is the handy thing. So just use Plan Builder. Nate?
There's one more thing that we should say is that we talked about it earlier, is in the recovery week, you usually get a big bump the super compensation can happen all at once. So you're in your last week of a phase and things are really hard, and then you recover and then you do your ramp test and you're like, there is no way I can hold this new wattage. And you kind of can get a psychological like issue in your head. I see a lot of people on Instagram do this too. They're like, I'm scared of this new FTP, but you're actually a lot stronger than you were before. Like, we have a repeatable ramp test, so we can measure that. And don't get negative in your head about it. It's still going to hurt as much as the Greg LeMond, quote, but you can do it. So don't like knock yourself down or doubt yourself before you even get into a workout. And that first workout usually is a little bit like shocking.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. That's a super good point. Mechanically speaking, he mentioned the fact that he wanted to move around his workouts. And that is one of the perks of being able to use the calendar. And you can totally do that. I've done that, and I do that pretty regularly midweek. I'll have my week planned out, and then I'll go, ooh, this one's particularly tough. Or, oh, I'm feeling particularly good this week, so I'm going to actually move that really hard workout that's looming large on Friday. I'm going to move that up to Tuesday, whatever it may be. You can just drag and drop those workouts around and shift your calendar like that. And then when you add something on Plan Builder, you can go through and you can say, I want to train on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever the days are. You can adjust that, and you can make it so that your easy day falls on one day, and you can kind of gap it out because, like you said, Chad, each one of us will probably figure out what we need in terms of recovery if our lifestyle is consistent, and we'll be able to schedule that out. And it's a huge help being able to rearrange your calendar.
Yep. And there's no reason why you can't rearrange your calendar, especially if you're on a low volume plan, which affords the most flexibility. You only have three workouts to get in within a week. So you've got the most flexibility. It gets a little trickier when you move to a mid and high volume plan because everything's set up specifically, so that you're working a day, resting a day, working a day. And if you need to alter that, it could become a little tricky. And I do set these up such that the hardest workouts fall earliest in the week where you're theoretically freshest, but maybe a Tuesday hardest workout doesn't work for you because Tuesday's your most stressful day at work. So you figured I'm going to shift that one to Thursday, bring the slightly less demanding work back to Tuesday, and you find a structure that actually suits your lifestyle better. By all means, change things around.
I think Mondays are suddenly not a good day for me to ramp test.
Rearrange.
I think I might need to do a little rearranging here.
If you like this video, you should subscribe to our channel. Maybe even give this video a like with a thumbs up and a comment down below.
If you want to see race analysis videos, you can click on it right over here. And if you want to get your coaching questions answered, you can click on it right over here.
And if you want to become a faster cyclist, which you should go over to TrainerRoad.com. It'll make you faster. We promise. We guarantee it, right, Nate?
Guaranteed. Or your money back.
Yes, it's true, actually. We really will do that.
Yeah.